President Biden out with a Wall Street Journal op-ed today detailing his supposed plan to tackle inflation. He writes, quote, inflation is elevated, exacerbated by Vladimir Putin's war in Ukraine. Energy markets are in turmoil. Supply chains that haven't fully healed are causing shortages and price hikes. This as fuel prices keep breaking records, with the price of gasoline now hitting $4.62 a gallon. We are entering the peak season, so we'll likely see prices continue higher. Joining me right now is Montana Congressman Matt Rosendale. He's a member of the Veterans Affairs Committee. Congressman, it's great to see you today. Thanks very much for being here. What you make of Joe Biden's op-ed today, talking about others causing inflation to move higher? No mention of the Democrats' massive spending all year, beginning with the $1.9 trillion COVID relief package back in March, which began stoking inflation.
The Democrats spent an additional $3 trillion last year, Marie, on top of everything that they already put into the budget. And that is what's exasperating the situation with inflation. I also like the way he snuck in there that line to try and temper everyone's expectations about job growth next year. Be prepared for 150,000 jobs a month. The 500,000 jobs per month is just unrealistic now that we're in this time of low unemployment. Everything that he's put in there is, again, just trying to blame Putin for the problems that this administration has caused themselves, whether we're talking about energy production, whether we're talking about inflation. This is all the direct result of bad policies by the Biden administration.
And part of that policy was all of that spending. When the president walked into office, inflation was at 1.4%. In March, he signed into law the COVID relief package, and inflation was at 2.6%. July, inflation was at 5.5% as the Democrats were pushing that $5 trillion spending package. And they're still trying to push through Build Back Better, right? I mean, then in November, he signed in another $1 trillion spending in the infrastructure package. Inflation shoots up to 6.8%. And now we're all the way at 8.3% post the war on Ukraine. Do you think this administration is going to continue trying to push through spending through the summer months?
I do, Maria. That's a really big problem. And as you said, we're up over 8% on inflation. And I think if you actually calculated in the increased cost of energy, it is much higher than that. Everyone that I'm talking to, my farmers, my ranchers, all of their inputs, fertilizer, fuel costs, they're going up by 200 and 300%. So I don't see how in the world inflation can be held at this 8-9% level. It's going to continue to get worse because no action has been taken by this administration to start making a change. So I'm afraid the wave hasn't even hit the beach yet.
Well, I'll tell you, you make a good point. A poll from Vice President Pence's nonprofit finds that inflation and gasoline are the top issues that voters are concerned about in the swing districts ahead of the midterm elections. And when you look at the overall price of things that we pay for, the average is 8.3%. You're right. But when you look at things like eggs, that's up 13% year over year. Fresh fish up 16% year over year. The price of an airline ticket up 33% year over year. So you're right. That's just an average. Will these issues be part of the Democrats' agenda this summer? And what do you think this means for the midterm elections?
Oh, I think that the talk about the wave hitting the beach of inflation, I think that the wave is going to be the red wave that's going to roll across this country. You're going to see the House of Representatives, the Republicans are going to take the majority back in a large fashion. We'll probably be sitting at about 270 seats. I truly believe that. I do believe now that the Senate is in play. And this is going to give us the opportunity to start putting some policies forward. And then it's going to be up to the president on whether he wants to continue to veto good policies put forward by the Republicans.
Yeah, I mean, one of the key mistakes, it appears, was canceling all energy independence out of America. I mean, on day one, he canceled the Keystone Pipeline and then canceled federal drilling on federal land. And, you know, that was one of the triggers for oil prices to move higher. And that's the underlying point of our inflation problem. Mercedes Schlapp, jump in here. It really is. What do you think about the Democrats and the midterms?
Sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to, Congressman, just quickly ask, especially when you've seen President Biden not only blame Putin for the gas price hikes, but then also demonize the oil industry. Where do you think the Republicans can stand strong against Biden when it comes to this issue of pushing forward an energy independent agenda and squashing the Green New Deal and the obsession of the Democrats with climate change?
So all we have to do is look at the facts. I also serve on the House Natural Resources Committee, and we proposed a package of 8 pieces of legislation to open up the energy resources again in our nation. Right now, our energy production is down by about 2 million barrels a day, and this administration has pulled the largest amount of oil out of our strategic petroleum reserves of any administration whatsoever. But that's only 1 million barrels a day. So we're still down by 1 million barrels a day. And again, we have proposed 8 pieces of legislation to open up the leasing again, to make sure that the permits are issued once the leasing does get opened up, to open up the permits on some of these pipelines so that we can actually deliver those products to where they need to go to re-permit the Keystone XL pipeline. All of these things will get us back in a position where the production is up dramatically. And as you guys know, this is a global price. So the supply and demand factors really do kick in. And if we can get our production up, the global consumption is going to be about the same. We're going to start driving that price down.
All right, we'll leave it there. Congressman, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks very much. Congressman Matt Rosendale joining us this morning as we look ahead to the midterms. Thank you, sir.